Okay, hi. No idea what I'm doing. I hope I've set this up right, but let me give it a whirl. I have Atheism Leads to Suicide. Atheism Leads to Suicide in front of me by this douchebag Eric Hovind on creationtoday.org. A total nutbag, and I think we all know this, but right, I'll start it and I'll comment to it, and yes, I'm aware you'll edit the hell out of it. You'll need to, okay.
Is why are Adam and Eve communists?
I have no idea.
It's because they had no roof over their head, no clothes, and they still called it paradise.
Man, that's wrong.
Wow!
Yes, stay tuned.
Hilarious.
Here, okay?
Actually, I've already watched the whole thing, so actually that was pretty much the funniest thing in it.
Get ready to
Was that it actually kind of made sense.
A dangerous science experiment.
Oh yes.
Stick around.
Selfie.
Yeah, because we all know that science is dangerous.
Where we bring together interviews
Of course, non-science is not the least bit dangerous. God.
Affirm the ultimate authority of God's word, the truth of creation,
Ultimate authority.
and why it matters to you.
Speaking of comedians,
we're just so hilarious.
Suicide of Robin Williams take place recently, and it's
oh, what a tragedy it is. So we can now make total light of it.
Eric,
we can propagandize it. And as for this conversation that's being had around the world, well, there may have been, but the conversation coming out of you guys is not really a conversation at all. It's just pure propaganda. It's horrible. You use the death of someone and try to turn that into an advantage for your own cause. You know, Robin Williams is a person who had infinitely more intelligence and talent than you will ever know. And you just turn that sad death into something that you can abuse, quite frankly, abuse for your own gain. You know nothing of that person, and you don't understand the science of the human mind any more than anyone else does. In fact, probably a whole lot less, because you don't even like science. Science is a threat to you. Mr. Williams obviously had a lot of problems most of us didn't even know about. He's entitled to a private life. It's very sad when a person takes their own life, but it was all he could manage to do. And it's his life, it belongs to him. It doesn't belong to you or your imaginary sky god or anyone else. It is sad when a person is so upset and they can't straighten their thinking out or can't bring happiness into their own lives such that they wouldn't want to do a thing like that. But it's not something that you know sufficient about to be commenting on any more than myself. Go on.
Creation of God, that was so funny. He did have a gift.
Oh man.
What were some of the things you liked about Robin Williams?
He had some one-liners that were hilarious. Freud, if it's not one thing, it's your mother. Hey, never get in a fight with an ugly guy. He's got nothing to lose.
I will remember that.
That's a good one. Then he goes, politicians, they're like diapers. You got to change them regularly and for the same reason. I love it. He had some really good ones.
And he had some great movies, too. Growing up, one of my favorite movies was the movie Aladdin, where he plays the genie. You know, he comes out of about 10,000 years.
Okay, so of course what they're doing here is really, I guess, reminding everyone of some of Robin Williams' great moments in film, but they're doing it, of course, with an agenda. The agenda is to build the guy up so that they can crash him down. And of course he can't defend himself. He's gone. So it's despicable. It's thoughtless. At the very least, it's thoughtless. I imagine, because I don't live the lives of these guys. I imagine that if I was doing a show like Creation Today, then I too would be weekly looking for subject material to discuss. So I can see how these sorts of things might come about. But they're in poor taste. I think that they're not very well thought through at the very least. I mean, this is a much loved world figure who has taken his own life. And they are, it's the kind of mocking him without appearing to deliberately mock him. If I'm not sure if I got that exactly worded well, but they're just looking for ways to tear him down so that they can run their agenda, which is to in a few minutes from this point attack atheism. They're using a man's death to attack atheism, and I suppose I'm just starting to repeat myself now, but yes, it is sickly. It is sickly. We'll go on.
You know, we were spinning his head around.
I like Jumanji.
It was funny, and as an adult, one of my favorite movies was Patch Adams there, and I think some great moments that really showcased his ability as a comedian. We even have a clip here. Let's take a look. That's a makeshift costume. I love it.
The bedpan.
I hope those were clean.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Sanitized. He's making a horse out of the ivy thing.
Man.
And just a beautiful gift to make people laugh who were down and out. Incredible comedian. So
the strange irony is that while he gave out lots and lots of laughter, his own life was actually lacking joy.
Well, at least you admit that you don't understand something. The strange irony. Yes, it's strange because you don't understand the man. And you're taking that he was a comedian, and you seem to be saying that he was putting that out there, but all the while there was something going on in the background that was of his life that was eating away at him. Well, I mean, clearly, yes, there was. So what's my criticism here? Why am I making these movements? That's horrible. Well, I guess I kind of already said it before. You're doing this. You're trying to make this look unscripted, but it comes across as at least semi-scripted. It comes across as though you've got your script worked out together, and you're trying to present this as if it is in the moment, as if it's unscripted. And it comes across that way as well, really badly. Let's go on.
Think of a man that...
Please edit the crap out of this. Thank you.
Had all the success as a comedian, he had career success, he had financial success, and yet he didn't know the true joy of Jesus Christ.
When you actually dig into Robin Williams' life, you discover that he...
Well, neither do you. Nobody does. Because all the evidence points to that there was no Jesus. Just because it's been written in a book doesn't mean it's real. It's written in a religious book for the purpose of indoctrination. Hello? It's so irritating that they bleat on and on about this Jesus character and that he was real. There is zero evidence for Jesus in any historical record at all. Zero. These people, they're not interested in that. They don't want to understand. The Shroud of Turin is not evidence of Jesus. It's not. The Dead Sea Scrolls are not evidence of Jesus. They're just writings about the subject of the religion. That isn't evidence that it's truthful. There's no evidence, and they argue circle around circle around circle. It's just nonsense. We'll go on.
adult drug addiction and alcohol abuse, and
so fucking what? So fucking what? Lots of people have those problems. Millions of people have those problems, regardless of whether they're religious or not. It's just straw man attacking. It's bullshit. And he's got the nerve to look into that camera and say those things about a man he knows nothing about. A man infinitely more talented than himself.
severe depression, which obviously everybody knows now.
And Eric, it certainly is not our responsibility to judge what Robin Williams was thinking and in his heart at the end, but certainly we know from Scripture that the choice to take your own life is a wrong one, and it's one that...
No, you don't know that at all. You don't know that at all. You just know that it's... And excuse me, it says, so then he puts up Exodus 20:13, thou shalt not kill. You know, who would read into that that means thou shalt not take their own life? And if thou shalt not kill, then what on earth are we doing eating meat? These ancient Arabic peoples were farmers, were they not? Did they not raise sheep? Did they not kill them to eat them? Did they not raise them with a deliberate purpose to eat them and feed their communities and feed their families? Thou shalt not kill? I'm pretty sure it doesn't mean thou shalt not... if thou shalt not kill, then thou shalt not harvest living plants to eat either. Because that would be killing, would it not? Thou shalt not go fishing. You know, he's bending that to mean whatever he wants it to mean, which is what Christians do, and aren't we sick of that? Thou shalt not. It doesn't say thou shalt not take one's own life, does it? It doesn't say that. In fact, it really doesn't say anything. I mean, thou shalt not kill. How the fuck do you not kill? You walk anywhere and you're killing any number of things by your mere weight of footstep. So clearly, thou shalt not kill is a standard set that is unattainable, forcing human beings to be guilty for their innate behaviors which they cannot resist doing. I cannot resist walking across the ground, and every time I do it, ants die. So don't fucking turn around and tell me that thou shalt not kill when the earth is set up for me to not be able to not kill. We'll go on.
It comes from no hope. Unfortunately, we have to take a break right now, but when we come back, we're going to talk about suicide and we're going to talk about atheism.
I like how they have to take a break right now to run one of their advertisements.
A worldview that directs people towards this life choice, but most importantly, we're going to talk about the hope that is found in Jesus Christ. So stick around.
Oh boy. Well, I don't find hope in Jesus Christ because I don't find hope in false things. The only place that I find hope, and I hesitate to use the word hope, it's not really quite what I mean, but mankind does well. In fact, mankind only can do well when mankind recognizes truth, reality, what's real. Whenever we behave outside of what's real, then we harm ourselves. We harm one another. And we harm ourselves. The minimum standard is to go with reality. I know I've worded that poorly, but I hope this community will know what I mean by that. Every time mankind attempts to behave, to ignore reality and make decisions based on unrealistic concepts and ideas, it invariably leads to the worst kinds of human harm, and earth harm, and animal harm, and plant harm. religion needs to stop. I think that we can't necessarily do battle with religion. We've been doing battle with religion for 2,000 years and we really haven't gotten anywhere. The world, if I'm not mistaken, the world is still some 90% religious. I hope that figure's wrong, and I forget where I got it from, and I hope it's wrong. Regardless of that, we have to try a different tactic. We have to have it collapse, and I think that we need to ridicule it out of existence, really. I don't know a better way. I can't think of a better way. I can't conceive of a better way. Religion is horrendous. And even some of the other religions that are not Abrahamic are actually quite horrible when you really learn about the details of them. The only reason they're not as horrible as they would like to be is, again, because of secularism in those areas. The Dalai Lama is a horrible, horrible person. He comes from a horrible dynasty. If you actually go to learn about it, it's horrific. And yet everyone thinks he's oh so wonderful. He's not. He's horrendous. And his dynasty is horrendous. So this all has to stop. And I think we have to do intellectual battle with them. And I think we have to humiliate them out of existence.
I want to tell you some of the stories of the encounters I've had with atheists, and I think I can give you a little bit of insight about what's going on in their mind.
Knowing and using
Okay, I really not convinced this guy's had very many interactions with atheists. He may have had some debates, perhaps, or something. I get the impression that this guy is deeply embedded in religion. His whole bubble, his whole world is all about religion and his self-promotion, by the way. It's kind of rude, you know. I don't see him promoting Jesus half as much as I see him promoting himself for monetary gain and perhaps for fame and popularity. Now on the screen at the moment there are these 4 questions. Who am I? And what am I worth? So it's actually 5 questions. Where did I come from? Why am I here? Where am I going when I die? And he's about to go on about these. Actually, he doesn't talk too much about these questions in this little clip, but he holds these questions up as being of some great philosophical importance. I hold these questions up as being the questions of a freaking 5-year-old child. A child who is yet to be educated. And here he is he looks like 30-something years of age, and still he's got these questions, and he thinks that everyone else has these questions. He seems to assume that everyone will relate to these questions. It's juvenile. It's childish. He should be well and truly over these questions as a prepubescent child, but he doesn't seem to be, or he's using them. I'm not a mind reader. I don't know what's in his head, but he either seems to think that these are great philosophical questions of some merit, or perhaps he's using them to engage with his audience in some way, to tell his audience, to try to imply to his audience, to promise, to make them the sticky sweet promise that if you come with me, that if you follow with me, you'll get an answer to these questions. It's a sticky sweet promise that he cannot deliver on.
Simple questions can revolutionize your outreach to anyone who says God does not exist.
In the mind of the atheist, they say, we want evidence. Let me just share you a little secret.
Correction. He could deliver on them. They require very little in the way of answer, by the way. I might go back and talk to them again, talk on them again. They are honestly the most they are the simplest of questions to answer. I think anyone in our own community can quickly answer all of those questions very, very easily, and there's none of the answers of which you'll hear out of this douche. Go on.
They don't want evidence.
You lying bastard, and that really annoys me. Of all of this video, that little bit there, that actually does piss me off. Because that's a complete and utter lie. That's an outrageous, deliberate lie. Just a few moments ago, he said that he had had interactions with atheists. So you know he's lying because he just prior said he has had many interactions with atheists, and yet he turns around and says a thing like that. So he is full of shit. He is deliberately lying. He is a fraud, and he knows he's a fraud. We'll go on.
Quotes from Paul Baird, David Hume, and other famous anti-God spokesmen. Eric.
Okay, I was a bit slow on the mouse button there to pause that, but that David Hume quote, David Hume, of course, was a philosopher. I know nothing about David Hume. I haven't read any of his materials. I read that sentence before, when I was setting up for my video, and it appeared to me to be typical philosophy. I'm sorry, but really quite drivel. It's very likely been pulled from a much broader written item, so it's possibly been taken out of context. In fact, knowing this douche, it's highly likely he's deliberately taking it out of context. But as a standalone sentence, I couldn't really get anything useful out of it at all. So I'll move on. But even people who are great, like David Hume, can sometimes write stuff that decades later we've moved on from. Just because he was a genius then doesn't mean he would necessarily, again, I'm wording this rather poorly, but I think psychology and, I'm not so sure about philosophy. I'm not so sure if sometimes a philosophy can ever move on. I think it kind of traps itself in this, some sort of weird circle of thinking that the human thinking is somehow never good enough for philosophers. And I think that is pointless. It serves no purpose, serves no human purpose. And yet I have seen from time to time other philosophers make great contributions to human thinking, so I'm in a bit of a dilemma about that. But as a standalone sentence, that was a pile of crap, even if it comes from David Hume.
It shows that their own words call atheism into question.
Evidence is not the issue.
Understanding.
Again, a very tiny snippet taken out of what is obviously much more being said. It's pretty bloody obvious that that's been deliberately taken out of context. The gentleman, whoever that was, is saying a lot more than that. I think that just has to be disregarded entirely.
These facts will give viewers a deeper passion and empathy for those lost in the pride of their misplaced belief.
What? What? It's somehow deeper. It's somehow more. I'm going to have to play that little bit back again. But there you go again with that self-promotion. It sounds good. It sounds sticky sweet on the surface until you sit and really think about what that sentence really means, and it's really quite derogatory. It's using the fact that people have questions to draw them in, and that's all it is. It's fluff and bluster. It's cotton wool. Is that making any sense? I don't know if that's making any sense. It's superficial, it's drivel, it's dressage. It sounds impressive, and like I said, until you focus on hang on, what did he really say by that? Oh my God, that's horrible, that's ridiculous. This is my first video, I'm trying, but again, self-promotion of that.
We're living in
just
a day and
irritating.
age where people know a lot about God, just like I did, but they don't know God.
Well, of course, that demands some sort of a comment. That's a massive generalization, and I accept that we have to have some generalization when we're having these kinds of discussions, but really, we're living in a time where people know God, but they don't really know God. Like I do, because I'm such an expert. Oh yeah, you the man. It's such bollocks, and it's just self-promotion. He's mouthing off in the really quite the bravest way. He's got a lot of confidence, and people are so attracted to confidence, aren't they? He's just mouthing off what an expert he is, and he knows nothing more than you or I. In fact, I have to say he knows a lot less than you or I about God. You know a lot about God, but not know God. I mean, there's a clash of definitions there for a start, but again, it sounds appealing to people of the same persuasion. We'll go on.
For this DVD, visit us at www.creationstore.org.
The mind of
Welcome
the
back
skeptic.
to Creation Today Show.
What are these people doing? The mind of the skeptic, as if they would appreciate and know anything about the mind of the skeptic. They hate skeptics. Religion reverses everything. They'll use anything, they'll say, do, propose anything if they think in the moment that it's going to somehow benefit them. The mind of the skeptic. What the frig would they know about that?
So the tragic death of Robin Williams began a national conversation on the subject of suicide, and Ben, I don't think people realize how prevalent suicide is in our culture.
Based on what? Mr. What's your name? I've forgotten his name already. Based on what? Have you gone out there and been talking to all these people? No. You haven't done any research. Now, later on in this video, this other clown on the right here, actually, on my right, actually has done some research, and that's interesting. Well, he says he has. And he could be fibbing, but taking out his word, he says he's done some research, and I find that very, very interesting, and I'll comment then. So, yeah, he's just sat there and said, I think that people don't understand the amount of suicide there are. Well, okay, you think that, but you don't have
in our society today. Eric, I did some research, and according to the World Health Organization,
800,000 people take his or her own life each year. 800,000 people. Okay, well, of course, it would be nice if that figure could be less than 1. But that's life, and it tells you something about life. And again, I like how this guy is, I think he said he's done some research. Well, he looked up a figure at least. I don't know if that constitutes exactly a lot of research, but at least he's gone and got a figure, and I'll take it on the surface that this figure is correct. I'm going to sit here, do it, and go Google it. He says he got that from the World Health Organization. Okay, I'll take that as truthful for the moment. So suddenly facts matter when it suits him. So isn't that odd? He believes in God, for which he has zero evidence. He's got his whole life invested in this, without any facts to back it up with. And suddenly, when it suits his television appearance, when it suits his cause, suddenly facts become important. Just only whenever they can be used to help him make an argument. And that's what I find interesting about this little bit. Okay, I'll go on.
100,000 people take their own life every year. That represents 1.3% of the world's population. Every 40 seconds, someone is taking their own life. And that makes me ask a question about secularism and atheism.
Well, that's interesting. Now, if that figure of the world's population being around 80 to 90% religious, that makes me ask a question about religion, not atheism, not secularism. It makes me ask a question about religion. Go on.
In a worldview where we are just random molecules, what legitimate answer can
What? Who said anything about random molecules? This guy's not a scientist. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. I'm not either, but at least I've done a lot of reading on the subject. I've got a whole library over there on this subject, and it's a massive subject, and it's a terribly interesting subject, that of evolution. And they keep throwing in this word random. Well, there are sometimes some random mutations, but really, evolution is not really about randomness at all. But they keep that straw man argument going and persisting and persisting and persisting all the time. They accuse the scientists of talking about randomness and that we're random and we're just a fluke and there's no meaning and there's no purpose. It's just such bullshit. Randomness comes into it relatively little. Importantly, but relatively little. It's I'm on the spot, so I can't exactly wrap it up, and I really don't want to make a hash of it. But you know, the evolution favors what works, what's working best. It favors that which is going to lead to more life best. That's not random. I'll go on.
atheism give to someone that says, I'm depressed, I want to take my own life? So let's look at the atheist worldview. Eric, what do atheists say about our origins? Where do we come from?
Nowhere. Random, chance, time.
What do they say about purpose? Do we have any?
No, there wouldn't be any ultimate purpose to life, just whatever you make out of life, whatever you make.
Do we have any meaning?
There wouldn't be any meaning because, you know, there's no purpose, no meaning.
Is there anyone fighting for us or anyone on our side?
Survival of the fittest.
Oh,
You're kind of on your own. It's, you know, might makes right, whatever you can do.
So in a world where we are random creations,
wrong.
No one is fighting for us. We have...
Wrong, by the way. And if we were, as a world community, doing things right, we wouldn't need that anyway. Why would we need others to be fighting for us? There shouldn't be anyone attacking us or threatening us. When you threaten someone, you look like you're about to attack them soon. So defense has to be taken and to preserve life. And this is the dilemma that religion's put us in. And here he is promoting it as a good thing. He's a clown. He's a thoughtless dickhead. I'll go on.
No purpose. What answer can you give to someone who said...
Okay, I'm not going to bleat on about purpose in life. We've all had those discussions many times. We put into our own lives whatever purpose we can make of our lives. That's up to us. It's up to us. It'd be nice if the community can help people, and that in itself is much of the purpose that people put into their lives, is to help other people. Just to create happiness. There's all sorts of things that can be said about this, but I think we've already, it's been covered a gazillion times. We all know this is a lie, this is another lie. These people who think that you can't have a purpose to life without religion, without his particular religion, or any religion for that matter, I kind of feel sad for them, but I'm also kind of pissed off at them at the same time. They really do demean humanity. They do humanity a lot of harm. They do cheese me off. Something awesome. Go on.
Because my life stinks. I want to end it.
There is no answer in atheism.
So what's going to happen when one day later on in your life you find out that this whole God thing really is bullshit? Are you going to take your own life? I hope not. What I hope you'll do is that you'll run around with the same passion you currently have to run around and explain to everybody what a mistake you'd made and apologize and put things right with people. How about that?
If you go with the Christian worldview, though, the Christian worldview would answer those questions very differently.
Okay, again, the Christian worldview? Excuse me? There is no the Christian worldview. Is it 32,000 denominations of Christianity, if I'm not wildly mistaken? And I guarantee you, if you interviewed every Christian on the planet in depth, I'll be amazed if even one view lined up with even one other view.
Differently, right. According to Christianity, according to creation, where did we come from?
We came from God who made us.
Why are we here?
We have a purpose to glorify Him.
What is the...
We have a purpose to glorify Him? We have a purpose to glorify fucking what? There's no evidence for any Jesus, God, Holy Ghost, or whatever the hell your particular concept of this supernatural sky daddy is. Such rubbish. We have a purpose to glorify God. So you're telling me that every human being on this planet who doesn't do what you do, have a TV show, that isn't a preacher, that doesn't spend all their time glorifying God, we're all immoral, we're all losers, we're all scum. What the hell are we doing farming and growing food for the populations? We should be on bended knee before God. We shouldn't be spending any time at all supporting life, looking after animals, loving the world, taking care of it, being happy. We shouldn't be doing any of that stuff. Inventing stuff, doing science, improving lives. We shouldn't be doing any of that, because we should be fully engaged the whole time in glorifying God. That's the purpose of life, to glorify God. You just said so. You just said so. So any time that we're not glorifying God, we're what? Being sinful? You nutbag.
Meaning of life.
Well, we have so much meaning. There's love in life. There's peace and...
So much meaning. Hang on, a second ago you just said the only thing we should be doing in life is glorifying God. Now you're trying to talk about peace. Well, since when has Christianity ever been peaceful? It's semi-peaceful now because we've put the handcuffs on it. Were we to ever take them off, I hate to see what would happen. And when I say semi-peaceful, of course, Christianity does a lot of awful things to people. Horrible things, brutal things, cruel things, things that lead to death and to maiming and to misery and indeed to suicide. Like shunning, for instance. Like kicking your kids out of your home because they admit to you that they don't believe in your God, or that they're gay. Yeah, that's enough right there. Or that they're taking contraception, or that they've had an abortion. I find religious people to be miserable. They keep talking about the joy of this and the joy of that, but that's like something they're trying to attain. Every Christian I've ever known, I've never known them to be nice. You know, they're superficially nice. They'll smile and they'll say nice words, but you know there's this hidden resentment there. There's this resentment that you don't suffer in your belief as they suffer in theirs. And as soon as they find out that you don't believe this stuff, you're treated differently. You're not really friends anymore. There's this superficial pretense at congeniality, but there's no friendship there. It's very hollow, and it's always comes from them onto me. It's never the other way around. I won't buy into their garbage, but I don't sit there ridiculing them either. But they, it's any time I looked back over my years of life, and any time I've realised, ever since digging more into atheism and religion the last few years, that those people that canned our friendships in the past, that were religious, I really came to realise that they did that for the religious reasons. They really couldn't stomach having an atheist friend. They weren't prepared to have an atheist friend. Despite the fact that before they knew that, we were enjoying each other's company. It's happened quite a number of times. I'll go on.
Like, God loves us. He's adopted us into his family.
What about who's for us if creation is for us?
God is for us. Who can be against us?
Absolutely.
I'm persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor the preacher in me.
Yeah, you're going, buddy. I got to tell you, if we want to examine this worldview and understand, if we want to talk about suicide, we have to ask a legitimate question to the atheist worldview out there. If atheism is true,
yes, of course. Again, it's all the fault of atheism. If something bad happens in the world, then God's got nothing to do with it. Never mind the fact that at every other time, God's the ruler. I mean, he's God after all. He's God, isn't he? And yet suddenly, whenever something bad happens, or something that's perceived to be bad happens, hey, it wasn't God. It wasn't God, it was the devil, or it was the atheists, or it was non-belief, or you didn't believe enough, or you believed wrong, or the wrong one. It's not my God. My God would never do that. My God didn't cause you to suicide. That was you. You had free will. What a twat.
why is suicide a bad thing? And it's a legitimate question that we must ask, because honestly, most atheists would say it's not a bad thing.
Some would.
It depends upon the circumstance, you idiot. It's bad for the family and friends of that person. And I'm sure it must be very traumatic for that person to be arriving at the conclusion that they want to do this and then actually carrying it out. It must be horrendous. And for them to be doing that, I can only think that their perception at the very least must be that their life circumstances are irreversible and that their suffering is going to continue or perhaps worsen. And there's no way out for them, for whatever their circumstance might be. And by the way, again, you talked about those figures. You said you did some research. Well, again, it was superficial because you didn't look at the reasons for that 1.3% suicide rate. What percentage of that 1.3% of suicide rate, how is that figure arrived at? Okay? I mean, many people go into hospice to die at the end of life as a more gentle way of dying, for instance. I have personal experience of this. No, not me. A family member. So, and you could call that suicide. The family member refused all forms of nutrition until death, to bring on death, because this family member was suffering beyond what this family member could handle. And there was no known way to help this person, now, then or now, for that matter. That person desperately didn't want to go on. That person made it crystal clear to everyone around, family, friends, that as far as that person was concerned, it was really, life had nothing left to offer that person, and it was time that person left the world. I wish it didn't have to be like that, but that was that person's decision. It wasn't ill-considered. It's not for me to say of that person that that person wasn't thinking straight or hadn't thought it through over a long period of time. Okay, I can't get inside that person's head. I've known that person for a very long time, and I know that that person was a very thoughtful person. So that person made that decision, arrived at that decision for all the reasons that mattered to that person. And it was very unpleasant to see that person go. But we have our own lives to live. We don't get to live someone else's life. We're not in charge of another person's life. We don't rule another person's life. That's their life. That's their life for them to lead. We can talk to them, we can try to influence them, we can try to help them, and sometimes, of course, we do wrong things too, don't we? But someone else's life belongs to them. Your child's life belongs to you. You don't own your child. You have no right to be indoctrinating your child to convince them of unrealistic things because it suits you. Older people, very unwell people, people who knows what sort of circumstances, sometimes want to take their life. Even someone world famous like Mr. Williams really couldn't handle life anymore. Who knows what was going on in his mind? Who knows how it was for him? You're not living his life. You think the guy couldn't figure things out for himself? Because he sure came across like a pretty intelligent guy to me. So how about you just be accepting that he wanted to end his life. He had reached a point where he just had to press forward and end his life. It's sad, but that's his choice. It's his life. It's not yours. It's not mine. It belongs to him. Let him run that. You just drive your car. Okay, you just drive your car. Never mind everyone else's car. You just drive your own. How about that?
Well, and it depends where
Many would.
Yeah.
Many would say, no, there's nothing wrong with that. Matter of fact, in ancient Roman and Greek cultures, suicide was a legitimate, okay, exit to life.
Yeah, in fact, it isn't until 452 AD in the Council of Arles that the worldview of Christianity and suicide being a negative thing begins to be brought back to the continent of Europe. Before then, people are like, oh, suicide, that's a valid choice. And Eric, as the Christian worldview is beginning to be pushed out of Europe, we're finding some interesting statistics. Of all the world's countries that deal with it, the top 20 that have the largest amount of suicides, 13 of those countries are on the continent of Europe.
Wow.
Not only that, there are places in Europe that you...
I'm not sure at what point in history he's pulling these figures. He appears to be conflating maybe something modern with something that's... I find all this whole bit, I've watched this 2-3 times now, and I can't get information out of what he's saying here, because he appears to be talking about ancient times, and yet he's pulling out figures, and these are figures that I'm just unaware of that they had these figures in ancient times, and I think he might be talking about modern figures. I just think this whole little bit of the ramble is really very unclear and very not something that I can trust. Anyway, go on.
You can go, that they will assist you in killing yourself. They'll say, here is poison with...
They will assist you in killing yourself. Well, that's friggin' interesting, isn't it? I mean, how many times have religions assisted people in killing themselves? You know, I mean, actually done it for them. I mean, what the fuck? Why is he criticising this? If someone wants to go and someone's helping them to do what they want, and I've talked about this enough a few seconds ago, really, I think he's clutching at straws here, really clutching at straws, trying to, what, fill out the time or something? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't stand up to scrutiny. I'll go on.
Water, you can take this and we'll assist you in suicide. The problem is this makes sense in an atheist worldview, and it's heartbreaking, and we need to be very careful about that here. Thankfully, in the United States, people are saying this is a bad thing. Robin Williams' death is not a good thing, it's a tragic thing.
I'm done. Obviously, Kangaroo, edit the fuck out of this. Just obviously, I trust you not to change the meaning of anything that I'm saying. And if you've got any questions, just let me know. Okay, thanks.